Back in school, Brian Tate made my life miserable. He shoved me into lockers, knocked books out of my hands, and laughed every time I cried. He gave me a nickname, Geek Boy, and told everyone to call me that. I hated school because of him. Every day felt like survival. He had friends. I had no one. Teachers didn't care. And my parents thought I was exaggerating. So I learned to keep quiet. I studied hard, stayed out of trouble, and told myself one day I'd be free. I never imagined I'd meet Brian again, especially not as my boss. Years passed. I went to college, studied business and computer science, and got a decent job. Life was quiet, simple, until the company merged with a bigger firm and everything changed. A few weeks into the transition, we were all called into a meeting. The new director was introduced. Brian Tate. I froze. He looked older, but I knew that face. Same smug smile. Same loud laugh. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? I was just another face in the crowd. But I remembered him. I remembered everything. And I promised myself, this time I wouldn't stay quiet. Brian was exactly the same. He made rude jokes, cut people off in meetings, and took credit for others' work. He treated interns like garbage and acted like a king. I kept my head down at first, just like I did in school. I wanted to be smart, careful. I listened, watched, and waited. I needed to learn how he worked, what made him tick. He still thought he was untouchable, still thought he was the smartest guy in the room, but he didn't know me anymore. I wasn't scared. I was patient, and I was planning something big. One day, he passed by my desk and finally spoke to me. "Hey, what's your name again?" I smiled and said, "Chris." He nodded. "You're sharp. Keep it up." I wanted to laugh. He had no clue. I was the same geek boy he used to torment. Now I was running reports he barely understood. I stayed close to him, took notes, earned his trust. He started giving me access to files and tasks he didn't want to do. I never complained. I just kept collecting mistakes, emails, private messages, things that didn't look legal. Bit by bit, I built my case. Brian thought I was loyal. He even told others I was one of the good ones. That made me sick. But it also made things easier. He gave me everything without question. I saw it. All shady deals, false reports, secret payments. He was covering up his own mess while blaming others. He pressured co-workers into lying for him. I saved it all. He was careless, arrogant, and cruel. And no one dared challenge him. No one, except me. But I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to bury him, with his own words. I created a folder called Project Titan. It looked like regular work files, but inside were hundreds of documents, videos, and voice clips of Brian's lies and abuse. I backed it up on 3 drives, one at home, one in my bag, one in the cloud. If anything happened, the truth would still come out. I worked late most nights. People thought I was a hard-working employee. I was, but I wasn't working for the company. I was working on justice. I wasn't the same scared kid from school. I was smarter now, and I wasn't afraid anymore. After 4 months, I had enough to end his career. But I waited. Timing mattered. If I went too early, it would look like revenge. I needed a moment when people would listen. Really listen. That chance came at the annual company party. It was big. Board members, investors, clients, everyone important would be there. Brian was set to give a speech. He was going to talk about leadership and success. I smiled when I saw the invite. It was perfect. I booked my seat early, charged my laptop, loaded the file. I was ready. This time I would control the stage, The party was held in a fancy hotel ballroom. Bright lights, music, and expensive food. People were laughing, drinking, shaking hands. Brian wore a tux and looked proud. He walked around like a celebrity, telling stories and bragging about deals. I stayed in the background, quiet but calm. I waited until he stood on stage, microphone in hand. He talked about vision and integrity. He thanked the team. Then he smiled and said, "Now let's raise a glass to the future." That was my cue. I stepped forward, holding a flash drive. "Before we toast," I said, "let's watch something." People looked confused. Brian frowned. "What's this?" he asked. "Just a few highlights," I said. I plugged the drive into the projector. The lights dimmed. The video began. First, a clip of Brian shouting at an intern. Then, an email where he approved a false report. Then a voice recording. Him laughing about tricking a client. The room went silent. Gasps. Whispers. Phones came out. Some people walked out. Brian stood frozen. "This is fake," he yelled. I turned to him. "No, Brian, this is you." He tried to shut it down, but it was too late. The truth was out. The board members were furious. Clients left. Security stepped forward. Brian argued, screamed, begged. No one listened. He was escorted out of the room like a criminal. Everyone watched. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there and watched him fall. The same way he made me fall years ago, alone, humiliated, powerless. When he passed by me, his eyes met mine. That's when it hit him. He remembered. His mouth opened, but I turned away. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his words. I had already won. And I didn't have to lay a finger on him. The next day, the news spread. Executive fired for misconduct. Brian's photo was everywhere. He denied everything, but no one cared. The company launched an investigation. I was asked to stay and help clean up the mess. They offered me a promotion. I said no. I had done what I came to do. I packed my things, shook a few hands, and walked away. Some people called me a hero. Others called me dangerous. I didn't care. I didn't want fame. I wanted freedom. And I got it. I left the building with my head high. This time, I wasn't the one crying. I used the money I'd saved to start my own business. Nothing big, just a small tech consulting firm. I hired people who had been bullied, ignored, or pushed aside. The ones like me, quiet, smart, but overlooked. We worked hard and treated each other with respect. We grew slowly but steadily. We didn't chase power. We chased truth. I promised myself I'd never become like Brian. I wouldn't abuse my team. I wouldn't play dirty. I'd succeed the right way. And I did. And the best part? I never had to lie, cheat, or steal to get there. One day I saw Brian at a coffee shop. He looked tired, older. He was handing out resumes. He saw me and froze. I nodded politely. He looked away. No words, no fight, just silence. He knew what he'd done, and he knew I remembered. I left without saying anything. That was enough. I didn't need revenge anymore. I already had everything he tried to take from me. Peace, pride, and a future. He had nothing but memories. Memories of the day his past came back to haunt him. Memories of the kid he used to laugh at. Sometimes I think about that kid I used to be. The one who hid in the library. The one who stayed quiet, hoping not to be noticed. I wish I could tell him everything would be okay. That one day, he'd stand up and fight back. Not with fists, not with anger, but with truth, courage, and a plan. I wish I could tell him that being quiet isn't weakness, that being kind isn't soft, that patience is powerful. I can't go back and protect him, but I can make sure no one like Brian ever wins again. I share my story now with others, students, workers, people stuck under someone's thumb. I tell them you don't need to become cruel to win. You just need to be smart, to wait, to watch, to act when it matters most. Bullies rise fast, but they fall faster, because power without character doesn't last. I didn't beat Brian by yelling louder. I beat him by being better, stronger, wiser. I built my revenge with facts, not fists. And when the moment came, I let the truth speak for me. It was louder than any punch he ever threw. So if someone ever tries to push you down, don't stay there. Rise, watch, learn. And when the time is right, take your shot, not to hurt them, but to set yourself free. My childhood bully became my boss. He thought I'd still be scared. He thought he could control me again. But I wasn't the same kid anymore. I was the storm he never saw coming. I didn't become his victim. I became his nightmare. And in the end, I didn't just survive. I won, quietly, completely, and forever.